Well, welcome everybody to another Montana Ag Tech Showcase. This month, we're talking about tech in bees. We were talking initially, this was Ag Tech Bees, and then we just shortened it to Bee Tech, which we thought had good ring to it. So internally, we've been using the term Bee Tech. This is a program that we've been hosting for the last year, just over a year now. And the focus of it is to provide a forum for the conversation where technology and agriculture intersect, or the confluence of those two things. So I'm Carl Unterschutz. This is Accelerate Montana's Rural Innovation Initiative. We're here to host the Ag Tech Showcase, among other programs which really focus on supporting entrepreneurship across Montana, ideally in rural Montana and around rural challenges and issues and rural startups. That's our goal. This Ag Tech Showcase is one of those forums in which we do so. We also do direct coaching. So if any of you out there are working on an idea, back of the napkin, wherever you are with the idea, if it's just a crazy idea and your friends and spouse are tired of hearing about it, and you want to tell somebody else, we can be those people. So reach out to us. I'm happy to hear your idea and take next steps. So today, again, we're talking about bee tech, bee technology. We have two great presenters today and folks that have been working in the space of technology and bees for a while. We're going to start with Dr. David Firth from the University of Montana, and then we're going to move to Omar Davidi. Is that, hopefully I got that right? Thank you, Omar, from
Pretty close. Yeah.
He's going to present a little bit about yourself too and your background, and then you can present about the company. And then, like I said, we'll move right into some questions from folks on the call. And I already have questions for everybody. So David, if you would start us off, tell us a little bit, one, about your technology, and then sort of maybe a little bit of that background, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thank you. Really appreciate the introduction, Carl. Nice to see you, Omar. So I work with Bee Alert Technologies, and really that's Jerry Bromenshank, Colin Henderson, Robert Seacom, myself. And Jerry and Colin have been working with bees for over 30 years here at the University of Montana. And I don't know, 15 years ago, we actually got a Department of Defense grant to develop technology that would allow the US military to find landmines. And so we developed a system where we train bees on the scent of landmines, and then we have a laser system that finds the bees over the landmines. It's incredibly good. We can train. So currently a dog takes a year to train, and it takes a month to demine a football size area. We can train our bees in maybe 4 hours, and we can do the football size area in probably 2 days. So enormous improvements in landmine detection. As part of that, we realized that we needed to roll this technology out into the military and to soldiers. And so we needed a way to allow soldiers to keep bees. And as anyone who's worked with bees knows, who's worked with bees for a while, you get to hear how your bees are doing. Just as you walk to the hive, you can tell if they're happy. I don't want to say sad. I don't want to, infuse feelings on bees here, but you can tell whether things are going to be good or bad just from the sounds. And so we knew that the sounds of bees make a difference. And so we did some research on the sounds of bees when they have different issues, health issues with them. And we developed a piece of technology where you can listen to bees, and the technology, artificial intelligence, will tell you what is wrong with the bees. And then a couple of years ago, we did a Kickstarter because we wanted to port that into a smartphone. And so what we developed was the Bee Health Guru smartphone app, which is a smartphone app that allows you to put your smartphone in the hive entrance, listen for 30 seconds, and then our system will tell you what is wrong with your bees. And what's interesting about this is everything I've said is actually very easy to do. What's really hard to do is get a database of sounds of sick bees that only have one illness, and you are absolutely certain that they only have that one illness. So that takes very experienced beekeepers to know that they only have one thing wrong with their bees. And they need to know that we need those sounds. And so Jerry Bromenshank is world renowned. He's spoken internationally with master beekeepers and master beekeeping groups. And so we spent 2-3 years collecting sounds from around the world of sick bees. And so what we do is we can listen to a colony of bees, and we compare that sound to our proprietary and really hard to get sounds of sick bees, and we can tell what's wrong with them. And so that's the technology right there in a kind of a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks, David. So I know, because obviously I've heard some of your backstory and so forth, but I know you also, while you had this technology, you came up with it, you've developed it, you're ready to go to market with it, and you participated in what is called the ICORE program, which is a program that's federally funded to take technologies from universities and commercialize them. So you were able to participate in this program.
Yep.
Could you tell a little bit of the story about, and maybe briefly, because I know it takes you some time, but between you start off, okay, I've got this technology, here's my market, backyard beekeepers, they're gonna need help, or maybe it's military, maybe it's soldiers that need to know how to take care of bees. Here's an app that can do it. You start there, and then what happens?
Yeah. So the ICORE program is a wonderful program, NSF funded, and we were part of that nationally. Jerry Bromanshenk has always been trying to help commercial beekeepers do their, just keep bees better for commercial reasons. And so he's always thought that the Bee Health Guru would be great for commercial beekeepers. It would allow them to use this technology to just make sure that their commercially kept bees are healthy. And so that was his version. My version was, hey, we need to be helping backyard keepers. There's 100,000 of them in the US. There's only 1,500 commercial beekeepers. Mine sounds like a bigger market. Maybe less money, of course, but all the businessy stuff around that. So the NSF ICORE program allowed us to explore those two different customer segments and really ask questions about who wants what and why were the questions that we were asking. Backyard beekeepers see their bees as pets, it turns out. And because they're pets, they want to actually interact with them. So we've got an app, of course, that you can put in the hive entrance and it will tell you what's wrong with your bees. That means you don't need to actually look inside your beehive. Well, it turns out backyard beekeepers actually want to look inside their beehive. They don't want our technology. They want to interact with their bees. So that was my idea was backyard beekeepers are our market. I was wrong. Jerry's was commercial beekeepers are going to want this. Well, we interacted with some of them, and what they told us was fascinating in my mind. It's like, so here's the deal. Your technology would allow us to potentially get rid of some of the people who, are professional beekeepers that we have on staff that would help us look after bees. But we don't want to do that. If there's ever a problem, we need these highly trained beekeepers to help us fix the problems. So it actually is difficult for us to sell our technology to commercial beekeepers as well, because we thought it would reduce costs, reduce the number of people they need on staff. And they said, the commercial beekeepers like, that's not interesting to us. So that's two markets. We had nothing. Thankfully, the ICORE program pushes you. And what we found is there are beekeepers around the world, actually, that rent out their bees to airports and hotels and other places. Google, Facebook has bees there. So they can show that they are being corporately social responsible. So, hey, look, we keep bees. And hotels are like, hey, we use our own honey. Those bees are rented from master beekeepers, and the master beekeepers would love a piece of technology that allows them to interact with their bees only when there's a problem. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference. Backyard beekeepers like, we don't want to use it because we don't care if there's a problem. We want to be touching our bees. Commercial beekeepers like, we don't want less labor, to reduce labor costs. We want to keep them. But this particular group of corporate social responsibility beekeepers, they're like, yes, we would love this technology. What it allows us to do is add another hotel, another airport, another place that would rent our bees. And then we only go when the Bee Health Guru says there's a problem. Fascinating. So we're actually just building out that market right now.
That would be my next question. How's it going building out that market? So you shot down two markets essentially.
Yes,
and then you found
two big ones.
Yeah, two big ones. You found the third, and now you're starting to build that out. Are you running into any other challenges currently, or any other things that you're is opening up?
Frankly, I mean, the NSF funding allows us to go and see these beekeepers, and the only restriction has been the travel, and we're just getting out of that. So we are literally booking visits out to Denver. We're hoping to go and see some of the European people who do this because they're actually ahead of the US on this. Being corporately social responsible is way more, way ahead of the curve in Europe. So we're hoping to go and actually see people who do this as kind of a career. And we do believe everything you've seen just over the last 2 months about American companies backing off from Russia, right? This notion that, sure, there's money to be made, but actually we need to be corporately social responsible. What we've just seen in the last 2 months, last 4 weeks actually, right, is a just enormous value proposition that doing the right thing is super important to companies. And that's exactly what our Bee Health Guru allows companies to do. It allows them to have bees, have them looked after by the person who rents them to the master beekeeper. And our technology helps the master beekeeper. So we think it's going to be an enormously growing market. And we're just right at the start though.
Right, right. Interesting. I think that might create some opportunity even for Montana's. I mean, maybe folks on the call know this, but Montana is one of the largest honey producers in beekeeping states in the country.
Yeah, and it's very spread out, right? And so it turns out that the big costs of these people, you know, there's 2 costs of these people who rent out their bees. It's time and it's fuel, frankly, to get between places. And so our technology reduces the cost of those for people who don't want to interact with bees unless they're sick. And that's the kind of important qualifier here. So.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Any questions out there? I don't see anything in the chat yet. Feel free to take yourself off mute, raise your hand. I often leave an awkward pause right here. If people are not accustomed to Zoom, just dive right in.
Can I get the recording emailed to me? Sadly, I have a grant meeting to go to. This is a way more interesting than my grant meeting. Can I leave my email in the chat, and I'd love to listen and be part of this, please.
Yeah, Shanna, go ahead, drop it in the chat there, and yeah, we'll get to you. We'll set it out to everybody for sure.
Hi.
Hey, Rachel, go ahead. I saw you.
Yeah. I just had a question about whether are you trying to get like what is your progress in terms of like the LiDAR technology in the military, and also like are you potentially going to use this app with the military stuff as well?
That's a great question, Rachel.
I'm excited because I don't know if you remember, I think I met you like 8 years ago or something, but I worked with Jerry and Colin back when they were just starting to like get the LiDAR stuff going.
Yeah, so we've pushed the LiDAR out. We know it works really well.
Yeah.
The short version is it's almost impossible to sell demining because it's run at the country level. And so the US State Department provides funding globally for people to do demining. And you've got to know people in the State Department. You've got to know people in Croatia or Armenia. That is just insanely difficult to have those contacts and get that done well. What we have found is that we can train our bees on all sorts of dead bodies, the scent of dead bodies, although there's not much call for dead body finding. But a recent one was giant African land slugs. I got that right? Gals? I only know it was gals. But anyway, in Florida, there's this infestation of slugs that are about this big. And they're causing chaos. And it turns out they have a particular scent, which we can train our bees to. And so we actually worked with the state of Florida on finding out where these things were. And then they send, it sounds weird. We can map where they are very accurately, very quickly. And then they send people in to literally crush the things because they're so invasive. So invasive species detection. And down in Australia, we're actually working on fire ants, same thing. Very invasive species. They have a particular scent. We can train the bees, we can let them do their work. Our LiDAR system detects them. And then you can go in and I would imagine you kill fire ants with fire, but I'm not sure what we do next, but that's so yeah, invasive species detection is where we're at, which is sort of what a landmine is, right? It's an invasive species.
That's cool. Yeah, I remember talking to them about invasive species, but it hadn't been used for that yet.
Yeah, we've done it. It's really neat.
Yeah, we were talking about zebra mussels, but it sounds like
Yep.
that. I don't know if that would be one too.
Yeah, it's.
That's yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, cool.
Thank you, Rachel. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel.
Oh,
All right. Anybody else? Last question for David. We'll have time at the end too. We'll come back around again. So the model is Omer will present and then we'll go from there, have some questions, and then we can come back around and ask general questions of everybody. So we'll have some time. We're not hearing anybody sort of dying to ask a question.
I have a lot of questions. I just don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Do you want to? This is. I mean, neither of you have been on this forum before, but this is really. To give you an example, we had a couple of people present a couple of months ago. They started chatting. They were very, similar kind of technologies. They started working together. One went up to help the other do harvest in August in northern Montana. So, absolutely, Omer. If you want to chat with David or ask questions, go for it.
Yeah, please do.
I think maybe just to highlight some of the challenges, because you did mention, as a side thing that you were going to collect sound of non-healthy bees or sad bees or whatever we want to call it in different environments. And I think sometimes people not really understand the complexity of this process. I think if you can maybe share a little bit more about the challenges with identifying, let's call it, clean problems that you can actually collect sound files from, and how does this translate to the real world? Well, noise is not clean as we expect in the lab.
Omar, that's a wonderful question, and really kind of, again, our technology, everything we do is actually not that difficult. We collect sounds, we do a Fourier transform, and then we just run them against a database, right? I mean, as described, that's pretty simple. Gathering the sounds is almost impossible to do unless you are as well connected as Jerry Bromanshank is. And so what happens is, again, he's known internationally. He put out the word. He speaks at the American Bee Federation. He speaks at the international conference, Appomondia. So he speaks globally, and he says, hey, we got this super cool technology, but we need to collect the sound of sick bees. Now, to your point, you can't just have people be like, oh, I've got a beehive, let me send in, I think it's sick, it has mites. Well, it might have mites and, no SEMA. And so what we need is professional beekeepers who know exactly what's wrong. They can look and say, what, there's only one thing wrong with these bees. And then, so one, we need professionals, pretty much only professionals are master beekeepers, right? Two, they need to know that there's only one thing wrong, which again, that's why you need that particular subset of beekeepers. Then they need to know Jerry needs sounds and contact him. So now we've got an even smaller subset. Then we have some really professional gear that we will FedEx to you. It's super high-end recording equipment. We ship that around the world. We show you how to use it over a Zoom call. It's not that difficult, right? That piece of it. But to your point, that's not in the lab, right? We did all this initial stuff in the lab, but our guys have been working with beekeepers around America for a long time. So we collected a lot of our own samples in the US, but now we're spreading it around the globe to do exactly what you said, which is every location's different, and so we're collecting that global database of sounds from master professional beekeepers. And then we pull it in and we put it inside our app to run against the sounds that you listen to with your phone when you stick it in a hive entrance. Yeah, it's not easy. Getting that sound database, people keep telling me, oh, you need to patent your tech. It's like, no, we don't, because no one can get that database of sounds. So it's interesting to me. It's not about the technology, really. It's about that insanely unique set of sounds that we've collected. That is truly non-duplicable. That's our secret sauce.
Nice.